How are you?
And if it's any better, I'd be the governor of Idaho.
This guy's leaving for vacation.
Yeah.
Going out of the country after this.
Where are you going?
We're going to England and France.
Oh, good. We're going to have a trade mission for time. We've had one. I think September, October. Good.
How's things in the governor's office this week?
Fine. I'm not there.
Makes it even better.
Got rid of the Christmas help?
I'm headed.
Come out of town?
I'm headed. I'm headed to Oklahoma City tomorrow. After 2 days.
Duck, they're going to have bad weather.
Hurricane, but just a tornado.
Little kids are all done.
So is that what you're
Figure out how to make top.
I know.
Terry, Justin. He's one of our
You can scoot your thing up closer if you want. Okay. I'm Joan, by the way.
John, I'm Al.
Al, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks for being here.
This was the one we sent to Oregon.
Sounds like you guys posted some stuff about your blog or whatever it was. What was it? They had a bunch of Jack's Street trucks there.
Testing, 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 testing.
Joe Dobbs. Boy, what a nice background.
They did a great job.
Getting those blossoms find something.
Yeah. Are you Chief? I'm Joan. Nice to meet you. The governor's office. Yeah, so we're gonna have you stand up there with the governor when we get started. Like directly next to him, like inside of the flags. Yep. Then everyone else will kind of file. Are you okay if they stand up there too? Or just kind of like we're gonna have people file in on the sides of the okay. Like standing,
You got it.
just like looking,
Just looking.
like a firefighter and strong.
Do you want them back behind the pulpit or the?
No,
podium,
we'll
or
just
right
have
here?
Dustin and Chief Way and the governor back there, and then you guys will just kind of file.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want more people or? Okay.
Yeah. So if you guys want to go on that side.
Tuck in, do they?
Literally told me he left us.
Don't put my gut on the news or on.
I'm gonna have you reach over to
You got it.
and be kind of more in the shot.
You got it.
Okay.
Totally.
Great.
I think they're pitting us against each other.
I know it.
Shot back there to the back.
Oh, yeah. That is a good idea.
He's such a seasoned man. He's all popped when it comes to the cameras.
Yeah.
That is such a tremendous resource for us.
How are you?
You're in charge.
You're in charge.
Is that how that goes?
I'll have you on that side, and then Chief
Or do you want us to switch? Since
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Good
I'm gonna
call.
stand next to Mike.
Yes, and then Chief, you can be right here, and then Governor, your executive order is right here.
Here, sir.
You're more than welcome to anytime you'd like, sir.
You ready?
Ready.
You guys want an audio test, or you? We're good. Okay. All right. Well, you guys are. What is this church? Everybody's way in the back. Come a little closer, so I don't have to yell so much. Yeah. Well, yeah. That fire briefing in the morning, you think everybody's paying attention to? They're not doing it. So get a little closer. So, anyway, well, thank you. I'm going to do a proclamation here in a minute, but there's a couple things that I want to visit about. And of course, coming to Coeur d'Alene, I don't have to talk about it as much as I do in other parts of the state. But 40% of Idaho is covered with forests, and much of it is federally managed forests that are not in good condition. And for too long, much of these forests have remained totally untouched, like for about 40, 50 years. And they've created a tinderbox of fuels that threatens communities, air quality, and our environment. In fact, in Idaho, we've got a map of 6 million acres of federal forest land that has been designated as severely at risk of both insect disease and, of course, after those two comes catastrophic fires. The state of Idaho, my predecessor was a big part of that, has led the country in standing up programs such as Good Neighbor Authority and Shared Stewardship to help federal partners increase the pace and scale of active management on federal ground. The work we've done and we're doing is making a difference. However, under the previous administration, we were limited to the extent we could help. I believe sincerely that that's going to change under this administration. On March 1st, President Trump issued an executive order to revitalize Idaho's rural communities by expanding American timber production on the national forests. On the heels of that executive order, I directed our state agencies to recommend opportunities for alignment with the President's Freeing Our Forests executive order to help further reduce wildfire risk and improve forest health throughout actively managed federal lands. Just this month, USDA Secretary Brooke Rollins issued a secretarial order defining the tools we will use to deliver on President Trump's promise of healthy forests. Not surprisingly, the programs Idaho stood up, both Good Neighbor Authority and Shared Stewardship, took the spotlight. To reinforce the actions at the federal level, I'm proud to sign a new executive order today, Make Our Forests Healthy Again Act. Of course, we all know our own Tom Schultz, an Idahoan, who's kind of a busy boy right now as the new chief of the Forest Service. He understands the forest problem, the forest health issue, as well as anybody, and I'm very excited about Tom's tenure as chief of the Forest Service. Now that we have the leadership we need at the federal level and the executive order ramps up, Idaho's efforts to get the feds to do more work on the ground will take effect. I want to acknowledge many of the loggers here today. Cleet Edmondson's here somewhere, from the director of the Associated Logging Contractors. To our loggers, get ready. You've got more work coming your way. I also want to thank members of the Idaho Farm Bureau because the agricultural community is also a big part of it, as we saw in the Julietta fire. That was a pretty significant fire, but when you flew over it and saw it looked like 100 miles of disc line that the farmers had done, and that takes place in the rest of the state. So with our local fire departments, both rural and professional, with our loggers, with the farmers and the ranchers that are out there, all in conjunction with the Idaho Department of Lands, I am confident that we will be much better prepared as we go into a new era of forest management. I want to thank Chief Chris Ray and the Kootenai County Fire and Rescue for what they've done, and have him make comments after Director Miller. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, thank you, Governor, and thank you all for being here today. Appreciate all the Department of Lands people being here. So this is a historic day. I'm Dustin Miller. I'm the Director of the Idaho Department of Lands, and as you all know, we are the State Forestry and Wildfire Response Agency. As the Governor mentioned, we stand firmly behind the Trump administration's efforts to cut the red tape and increase active management on our national forest lands, including increasing timber harvest, restoring watersheds to support the industry, protecting communities, and making our national forests healthier, more resilient, and resistant to catastrophic wildfire. As the Governor mentioned, 60% of the state is owned and managed by the federal government, and more than 6 million acres of National Forest System lands are severely at risk for insect and disease infestations and consequently wildfire. You couple that with a rapidly changing Idaho, more growth, more expansion of the wild and urban interface, more ignitions. This creates a forest health and a wildfire crisis here in Idaho. But we are uniquely positioned here at the Department of Lands, working with our partners to play a role in addressing this risk and this crisis here in Idaho. Since 2016, the Department of Lands has utilized its Good Neighbor Authority to help establish timber sales and increase the pace and scale of National Forest System land restoration. And this has really created a lot of strong partnerships, especially between us and the U.S. Forest Service. And so we stand ready to expand these efforts on federal lands, utilizing our expertise to get more work done. On the suppression side, this is critical that we continue to prepare for what's become the new normal. Longer fire seasons, more aggressive fire behavior, and we can't do fire alone. That's why relying on our partners like Chief Way with Kootenai Fire and Rescue, Chief Niemeyer, Boise Fire, to help us tackle our wildland fire issues here in Idaho. We continue to strengthen these partnerships with our fire service organizations and our other partners in wildland fire. Just really want to thank you all again for being here and thank the governor for his vision and his leadership in aligning the state with the Trump administration's priorities here to tackle the forest health crisis here in Idaho. So I'll pass the time over to Chief Way.
Thank you, Director Miller, and obviously thank you, Governor Little, for inviting us to be part of this today. We just want to emphasize from a local standpoint the importance of partnerships. I think when Governor Little first called me about a year and a half ago and Director Miller and said, hey, we want you to be on this committee, you and Chief Niemeyer, who unfortunately sends his regards and couldn't be here today from the Boise Fire Department, he said, you two are going to be the local representatives and we want local impact and local respect and local presence on the governor's wildfire task force, which we were thrilled to death to do. The culmination of that is the executive order that Governor Little is signing today. We could not do this without our partnerships, and I'll give you an example right here in Post Falls 2 years ago, or almost 2 years ago. We had the Parkway fire. We were able to stop it at 96 acres, and it was it was an urban forest, and we lost urban forest, but it came within 55 feet of a 70-house subdivision, and it was a incredible effort of state and federal partners, along with our local responders, that we were able to do that. And many of you here today were part of that effort, so I would again say thank you on behalf of our community. I know when I called Director Miller that evening, he assured me that the resources of the state of Idaho were behind us. We talked to Governor Little the next day, and he assured us the same thing. So I would just emphasize that I think we're lucky in the state. We're certainly lucky in this region of the state. We know how important the partnerships are. We enjoy partnerships that I can tell you our neighboring states don't enjoy. And a lot of that is due to Governor Little's leadership, Director Miller's leadership, and the leadership of local fire agencies throughout the state that are truly committed to protecting Idaho and making sure that we are ahead of the game with executive orders like this and that we are proactive and not reactive. So again, Governor, thank you very much for signing the proclamation and the executive order today. Director Miller, thank you again for your continued partnership, you and your team. And I would like to thank our local responders who are here today as well, who do play a vital role in protecting our community. So thank you all for being here, and let's get ready for fire season 2025.
Thank you, Chief. I want to add one more thing. The task force that the Chief talked about and Director Miller was on, if in the contrast between how we do fire in Idaho and particularly how they do fire in Oregon, Washington, and California, it couldn't be more stark. The partnerships that we have, the initial attack that we have, there's a lot of states that spend a lot more than Idaho does, but from an efficiency standpoint, from the men and women that respond initially, to the equipment we have, to the air assets we have, from an efficiency standpoint, the first thing we want to do is keep people safe. Second thing we want to do is put the fire out and protect life, limb, and property, and we want to do it as efficiently as possible. This federal estate that we're talking about, our problem is not on state endowment land. The problem is not on industrial timber land. The bulk of the problem is on the federal estate. And in fact, I'm going to be with both Secretary Rollins and Secretary Burgum tomorrow or day after tomorrow. And we're going to continue to have conversations about it. But Idaho's leadership through Good Neighbor Authority is what the rest of the West is looking at as the model to get our forests in much healthier shape. So with that, I have a long executive order, which I will not read. But basically what it says is we support the president's executive order, we support the secretary's executive order, and we want to do all we can from Idaho's standpoint to make it as efficient as possible, and for Idaho to serve as example for the rest of the West of how to keep communities safe and suppress these fires. So with that, with this pin at this location on this date, I have signed Executive Order 2025-04. 20 years.
Nope. A little closer.
For my purposes, you might shoot another one. You'd be my hero.
Oh, yes.
Here you go. Here's the
We'll
pin I
take more
signed
photos
with.
too, but
All
we're
right.
gonna open it up to questions.
All right, go ahead.
Do you have any questions?
Any questions?
You'll have to forgive me, Governor.
You got my coffee, so I can't.
That's right. You're a coffee guy. I was told about this at 9 a.m. this morning. Jumped in my car, drove here from Spokane. I have no background on this, so could you explain it to me like I'm 5, but don't talk to me like I'm a kid?
Well, I mean, basically, the federal government recognizes how less than efficient they've been at managing their federal estate and responding, and they look at Idaho and the example, whether it's the cooperation, whether it's suppression, whether it's the training, as an example, and the federal government wants to be more like Idaho in many, many ways, but particularly, you know, these big fires, and you take the fires that exist in California and Oregon in particular, those big fires, and there's a relationship to the utilities, but those big fires end up on people's utility bills. Besides what it does to air quality, besides what it does to communities, heaven forbid you have a community, and you just cited an example that burns up. But if you don't do the right thing early, given some of the changes are going on there, and given the fact that that 6 million acres that I talked about has literally been unmanaged since probably the 70s or 80s, and to get caught up is going to be a big effort. We put more acres under GNA every year. Many of the people here with the Department of Lands are part of that team that works on Good Neighbor Authority, but we want those lands to look more like our lands. We're not talking about the wilderness area. We're not talking about the parks. We're talking about ground that traditionally was timber managed ground that they just, ever since Spotted Owl, more or less, they've just quit managing. And of course, one of the things we need is more timber sales. But we also have to have milling capacity. You can't snap your fingers and say we're going to take care of all of this mismanaged forest if you don't have head rig capacity and you don't have loggers, trained loggers like Cleats people. So it's a all-encompassing issue. Some of these states don't have a sawmill. So when they have to do a forest health, the taxpayers have to go out and pay for people to go in and cut trees and chop them up in little pieces and shoot them out on the ground. We are blessed in Idaho that we've got mill capacity, but that mill capacity needs a guarantee that in the future they're going to have a big enough wood basket, well-managed wood basket, that they can be profitable, and that these families that are in the logging business can have a career from one generation to the next.
Great. I guess second to that, I mean, logging is a pretty significant industry in Idaho historically, and I know that a lot of them are getting older and aging. I think I did a story.
None of them are as old as Cleat.
But no, I remember doing a story years ago when I worked in Boise. I was out in McCall, and the logger's like, my guy who drives truck, he's like 75. When that guy retires soon, I got no one else to drive that truck that knows how to do it.
Well, we were actually, Cleat and I were just talking about that. They had an event last week, or this week or last week, and they reached out to high school kids, and they've got partnerships with high schools to where we're showing them that. You got to remember that the logging industry, despite what it looks like, for every one logger in the woods today, there was a time when it took 12 people to do the amount. Modern logging equipment, safe logging equipment, the technology that exists in the logging industry today dwarfs anything we had in the past. You know, modern logging equipment is very, very efficient, but it's also very expensive. And if you're an independent logger, a family logger, and you want to pass that on to your kids and grandkids, you've got to do the training, but you've also got to have very expensive equipment. So they need to know that there's going to be a supply of wood that they can make a living going into the future. I am very bullish on the timber industry, particularly in Idaho, because of where we are today, but it is very capital intensive. And of course, in the same vein, there used to be, what, 6 sawmills in Coeur d'Alene, Todd? There used to be 6 sawmills in Coeur d'Alene. Now the only mill we have is a Chilco mill. But guess what? In Idaho, we still produce about the same amount of wood. Now, you got to count the pulp that goes through the mill at Lewiston, but we still produce about it, but we do it with way more sophisticated and safer sawmills than we ever had before. The logging industry is safer. What we need is a guaranteed supply going into the future of wood fiber to provide jobs for the logging industry and to provide head rig fuel for the sawmills. All right, thank you.
We'll get a couple more photos, so.
I have to go get my coffee. I'm about ready to die.
You know what? We didn't get put on the bad side. The shade over here. This side that
Talked to
wasn't
Joe Paris lately.
He's got a new conservative haircut. He looks like a clean-cut guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Ah, he's got to have that wild.
Well, you know, he's got that new wife and that.
Okay, I gotta go over here.
And then one with the executive order again.
All right.
Okay. Ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay. Now, Chief, we'll have you step out for
I was
1 second.
sucking in,
and we'll
Joan.
have the Department of Lands folks.
Come on,
come
you
around on
Landies.
either side,
You
and then
got it.
we'll get with you guys.
Come on. Yeah, yep.
So
Come on
file
in,
on
guys.
both sides.
1, 2, 3. I gotta count.
Okay, we gotta
Same
balance it out.
mechanic.
Yeah.
Oh, we won't tip over.
Yeah.
We won't tip over. We're good.
Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Okay, great.
All right.
Now we'll have Chief.
Okay. Chief and his people.
You too.
All right. Thanks for
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. 1, 2, 3.
standing there.
Very nice.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Governor, can I just introduce you to my parents real quick?
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
They're going to. We're taking them to London with us, so they're here.
I don't know. It's up to you. You're like, shade in our t-shirts.
Check this out, Coeur. Swat. Put us in the sunshine.
I've maybe done this a time or two. So.
Well, yeah.
Not my first rodeo.
Very impressive in Idaho.
Oh, yeah. Well, those guys aren't even competition.
Yeah, it's pretty bad to just. I mean, bordering Washington and seeing what happens during a fire over there versus what happens if we have a fire. I mean, literally the night